3. Wrexham 3, Sheffield United 3, in front of a packed crowd at Wrexham with one superstar owner in the stands who seems to be looked at every 10 seconds, it feels like, on the TV cameras. But yeah, Wrexham unlucky to go 3-3 against Sheffield United. It could have been a dramatic win for them. Sheffield United pulled it back in the 95th minute, but yet another entertaining game involving Wrexham in the FA Cup. Myles, they've got something about them, haven't they? What is it about Wrexham this season that's really catching the eye, do you think?
Yeah, undoubtedly the new owners have lifted things in the whole club and the atmosphere around them, and the supporters have obviously been fantastic from day one. It's a really historic club, and you can see the following means so much to them to see their team back at some sort of level where they're getting the recognition that they used to have before they went through this turbulent time under such poor ownership before, where he basically abused the club, stripped all its assets and tore them apart and left them really in a precarious position. It's really nice to see them get back to where they kind of belong in some degree. Obviously, they sit top of the league as well, and a cup run. That's the kind of spotlight that the new owners and the fans will have always hoped for. Of course, you're always going to be drawn to the Hollywood storyline, but on the pitch, yes, it's come from investment, of course, but they look like a really good football inside, playing above their current level. Particularly when you've got someone like Paul Mullin up front, who could comfortably be playing in League One, if not the Championship.
Yeah.
He's an excellent striker. I think he's got something like 94 goals in his last 120 games, which is it's a phenomenal record at any level. And he really looked like the difference maker in this game too. So they'll be gutted not to already have their place in the fifth round, to be honest. But you can kind of see them getting a result even at Bramall Lane, which is a really exciting time for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the home advantage really helps them, doesn't it, as well? The crowd was so loud, and it did feel like that cliche 12th man for them in some ways. But Dave,
Well, it was there. It was 9,909 fans
that's a
at
lot.
a non-league ground. I know obviously Wrexham's ground is a bit different to a traditional non-league stadium, and because of the heights they've been at before, you do expect that, and obviously with the media attention they've got, but unbelievable attendance that is. It shows how behind the club people are right now.
And one stand under development as well. So
Yeah.
not even full capacity, really. But I was going to say to you, Dave, it was not the first time they've kind of enthralled in front of the cameras as well. In the last round against Coventry, another end-to-end game where they pulled no punches, really. They didn't sit back. They took the game to Coventry, and they did the same against Sheffield United this time, didn't they? Despite Sheffield taking the lead quite early on, it didn't deter them. They came back strong and really should have won the game had it not been for just a lapse of concentration in the final moments, really.
100%. I think if you look at the response that they gave, a lot of teams, lower league teams, could probably respond terribly to going behind in the first minute. I kind of worried for them a little bit because all the build-up before the game, they spoke to obviously Ryan Reynolds. The way he speaks about the club, you can only look at him in a really positive way, because no wonder this wave of positivity that Wrexham fans are riding at the minute, and the energy that they're gaining from their new owners, and just the whole atmosphere around the club. Obviously, they have the TV show on as well, which is actually a really good watch. You can see why they're top of the league and why they're playing the way they are, because it's not just the players, it's the whole atmosphere around the club, and it plays such a pivotal part really in the success of a football team, and we've seen that. But yeah, this game, obviously, I've got to give a lot of credit to Paul Mullin, and 7 goals in 5 FA Cup games this year is ridiculous. And I've seen a lot of mentions about call-ups to the Wales team as well, which is quite an interesting one to see. Obviously, it helps them being in the limelight with obviously that's what their owners bring to the club as well. But you've got to praise the way they played in this game. They don't. If you look at the statistics as well, how many shots they had. This wasn't the performance of a non-league team.
No, it was impressive to see, and like I say, it's not the first time they've done it in the Cup, and they're doing it in the league every week, it feels like. So a big step up from how they were doing last season, Myles. But which players, apart from Paul Mullin, who you've already mentioned, are kind of sprinkling that extra stardust on the team at the moment? Because it's a work in progress, of course it is. But going forwards, they look brilliant, don't they?
Yeah, I think Jones in particular was excellent in this game as well, and took his goal very well. I think the main thing is, all of them on that pitch, they were up against players that, let's not forget, were in the Premier League just a couple of years ago. Like Ollie McBurney went for a big fee at one point. John Egan was playing in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So this isn't an easy test. It's not necessarily the kind of big headline grabbing kind of result that they wanted, and it's not against someone like Chelsea or United, but it's still a huge coup for them. And actually, the way that they've built this club up, it has to be admired. I know some people might be kind of skeptical over the intentions of their owners, but we're in a world where football is being taken over by oil states and countries and politicians getting involved every left, right, and centre. So I'd much rather see this project where two guys who love sport are seeing what they can do with the club, and their ambitions, obviously, to get Wrexham right up to the Premier League. And when you see the buy-in from the fans and the community and the playing stuff that they already have continuing to develop, there's no reason why they can't achieve slightly more than where they are even now. They probably feel like they might be even behind schedule. They probably should have been promoted last year with the investment.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're still going, they're still kicking on, the fact that the owners didn't lose interest should be a really comforting sign to the fan base in particular. And the work they're trying to do with the community hasn't come easy. If anyone's watched the documentary, you'll see the fight they went over to even buy the stadium back. That was a real struggle, but they stuck with it. They've invested the money where necessary, and the playing squad reflects that. I know it's easy to just focus on Mullin, but it has to be the focal point, because that is an exact sign of where Wrexham need to be, looking at players that are above their current level to get them to that next step. And this was a great step in the right direction, 100%. I hope they can get through the replay. They deserve it.
Well, Sheffield United fans will be kind of frowning at that comment, because it feels like the attention is off them completely. And I mean, they're having a good season in their own right anyway, aren't they, Sheffield United? So that makes this result even more improbable. And that's kind of the magic of the cup again, as we were talking about. And I do feel like the owners are falling in love with football a little bit more every time things like this happen. And you can see, it's coming to a game like this in the middle of, the end of January. It's a cold, wet, horrible afternoon, but the atmosphere he must have witnessed just makes it all the worthwhile, this investment he's made. But if they do get through, it'd be interesting to see how they come up against, say, a Premier League side. But having said that, there are fewer Premier League sides in the FA Cup left now. So
yeah. Did you see Blake Lively posting that she'd signed up for ESPN just to watch her husband have an anxiety attack, which is excellent. Wrexham FC were trending in America yesterday on Twitter.
I believe it.
Which is that's such a funny thing to see, like the development of that club, and that they're growing this new fan base in Philadelphia in particular. Like, that's so nice for them as well. And the revenue that will bring with it shows why this was a worthwhile investment, but also how it can help them reach that next level. I mean, a non-league club sponsored by TikTok that's phenomenal, isn't it, really? So they're obviously bringing in money too. It's incredible to watch.
They're quite surreal, aren't they, as a project? And I think it's still, it feels like some kind of weird fairy tale or some kind of movie unfolding in front of your eyes. And when you see results like the last two in the cup for Wrexham, when they've had sendings off and end-to-end action and last-minute goals, it does kind of follow the script very much, doesn't it, as well? So, real entertainment.
Gotta say, though, if you're John Egan and you score a 95th minute equaliser against a non-league side and start shushing the fans and cupping your ear, come on, have a bit of class, mate.
Yeah.
Like, they're non-league. I know they've got these big owners, but I thought that was ridiculous.
Well, do you know what you were mentioning earlier about the point of football fans and how they feel about ownership, and how the Wrexham fans have really kind of bought into the project that's happening? It does raise questions about how fans feel about ownership generally, because we all want to have wealthy investors in our club, but only from certain backgrounds. And, we don't want to cheat the system. We don't want to spend a fortune when we can't live beyond our means and things like that. But this is such a nice way of seeing a story like that develop, especially for a club like Wrexham that have had a really tough time over the last 20, 30 years. I've only ever known them to be a struggling non-league team or a struggling league team at the very bottom of the pyramid. So, it's quite nice to see something positive coming for them.
Yeah, it looked like they were gone a few years back, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
So the fact that they're going to get to this point where they're going to be back in the Football League soon, it's hard to get to that level. Like, they found that the hard way over the last 2 years when they were trying so hard to push to get promoted again. It looks like they'll do it this year, but it's hard because only the top team go up. Like, that's automatically anyway. That's really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.